Okay, beautiful. So today we've got Ali on the Becoming Cosmically You podcast, and I have a feeling it's going to get a bit juicy because Ali helps people connect with their bodies to have amazing orgasms. So, Ali, over to you. Explain to us where you come from, who you are, and what you do.
Hi, thank you so much, firstly, for having me on your podcast. It's an honor. I'm a women's pleasure coach. I'm technically a somatic practitioner, a pleasure practitioner. I can work with men or women, but my main passion is helping women to reconnect to their body, their orgasmic energy, their pleasure, all of that, so they can just awaken the depth of their free-flowing pleasure. It's my absolute passion in life. To see women
Mm,
come to life in this way is just, it's incredible, because pleasure, I always say the orgasms are just a byproduct of being connected to your body. And back in the day when I started my own journey, I was so fixated on, my inability to orgasm without a super high powered vibrator. I was so fixated on that, and I wanted to, quote unquote, fix that, and also my low libido. But once I began the journey of reconnecting back to me, taking the goal off the orgasm, that's when everything started flowing freely. And so this is what, is so empowering for women, and so exciting to watch, because it's basically a woman coming to life. She's reconnecting with the depths of her. So it is juicy, and it's incredible, and it's delicious, and it's magical.
yeah, I love that. And I think, women of a certain age as well, I think especially when you go through childbirth, you really kind
Mm,
of become disconnected from who you are and what you can achieve. And yeah, orgasms are amazing as well for manifestation, right? There's nothing you can't manifest with an orgasm.
that's exactly right. Exactly right. And orgasm is, a lot of people don't understand this. They think orgasm, is a particular spot on the body. And an orgasm is a build up and a release of energy in the body. And we can connect to this in any way. We can connect to it without touch. But that energy is our life force energy. So you're right. It is so potent and so magical and so powerful when we connect to that, and mix that with manifestation, and tapping into what we want, and our creative juices as a woman. It's awesome.
So where do you think, what are the kind of issues that you usually see your clients come into you with? Are they at a certain starting point where they're like not connecting with their partners, or what usually happens?
Yeah. A lot of these women, they're not having the sex and intimacy that they want, full stop.
Mm,
Whether that's from their own disconnect to their body, or they're in a relationship that doesn't serve them, or their partner isn't open and willing to try, or a combination, of all things. But they're certainly not experiencing the sex and pleasure they desire. A lot of the women I work with struggle to
mm,
let go of control. A lot of these women are often heavily in their masculine energy, heavy in the doing, and they have to be in control. They feel like if they let go, it's not safe. They've got to be thinking about, well, what am I doing? The kids need this, the kids need this, dinner needs this. So then it comes to the bedroom, and they can't just let go and surrender to that moment, to the pleasure in their body, to that, energy with them and their partner. And when we are in our head, so as I was saying before, with the orgasms being the build up and release of energy, when we are in our head, we are disconnected from that energy. So it's impossible to feel the depth of your pleasure when you are in your head. You
mm,
can, force things to happen. You can bypass that emotional body with things like vibrators, high-powered vibrators, porn. This is where people turn to other things to essentially rely on that forcing something to happen. But yeah, a lot of the women, and there's nothing wrong with toys. Let me just clarify this. A lot of women think, because I help a lot of women to feel their orgasm without toys, potentially for the first time, which is what my journey was. There is nothing wrong with any way that you decide to enjoy pleasure consensually. But a lot of these women, and including myself, are frustrated at relying on that certain way to feel something. And they want to feel just free to melt into their pleasure, and that they can experience, via penetration, they can experience it however they desire, rather than relying on one specific tool. And yeah, as I was saying before, it requires the deepest vulnerability to let go to this energy in the body, which is our emotional body. I won't get too technical in there, but that's our emotional body. It requires a deep vulnerability to just let go in that moment to whatever is going to arise. And a lot of women, because, we've never been taught how to connect to our body, it's almost like it's not safe for us to let go of that control and just be in the body and in that moment. So there's always a part of us that's in our mind, or just holding on to that control. And when we learn to surrender, connect to our body and surrender, then oh my God, the orgasms can just flow over and over, like that energy does. And it's incredible.
I think surrender's like such a big topic that's coming out with everyone that we spoke to on the podcast, and it's such I think it's the kind of thing that you have to actually experience, right, for yourself, because it's more of a doing thing than an actually saying thing. You have, because everybody experiences it differently, right? We're all completely unique. We experience surrender in such a different way. So what advice would you give to someone who is really struggling to surrender and give up control?
I would suggest starting with your own. I always suggest to women, so if they're struggling to let go, during sex and have the sex they want, start with this by yourself. So start your self-pleasure practices, and self-pleasure is different to masturbation. Masturbation is goal orientated. Right, I want an orgasm, I want this to happen, yum, this is what I want the release. Self-pleasure is learning about connecting to the body with whatever arises in that moment, and letting go to whatever arises in that moment, whether it's residual anger or sadness or anxiety, whatever comes up, letting go to that, and that energy will move. So you start with your own practices, even as simple as, a little somatic meditation, which was a huge part of the work that I did to connect me to my own free-flowing energy. And I actually have a freebie that I am just about to release now, so women can use this. But it's almost like a meditation where you are learning to be in the body more. And the more you do this, the more you will be able to let go and surrender to what's there. And the more you can let go and surrender in your own body, the more you will trust your body's wisdom and intuition that you can let go in the presence of your lover. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. I love that. One of the activities actually I used to give my private one-to-one clients. I don't tend to work one-to-one with many people anymore, but I used to always say you need to connect with your body, and you need to connect with, self-pleasure in sessions as well. I think a lot of us have been shamed over touching our bodies in a pleasuring way. And, I would teach them how to connect, how to pleasure, and how to use that orgasm for something magnificent. And I think a lot of us have been shamed over the years. It's like a collective shame around sex, that women should only be able to have one orgasm, where,
Mm,
that's not true. We get to have it over and
no.
over again. I mean, I've got a female partner, so I'm quite lucky that I get to experience the over and over and over again thing. I know, I know,
But you're right. There is still so much shame and taboo around this. And even for myself, when I was, many years ago, I started this journey and I was starting to reconnect and look at my body and my pussy. I don't know if I could say it. I say it in a very empowering
Yeah,
word way.
say it. You can say anything
I
here.
don't, everyone's different, but I love that word. I love it. I feel it's a very empowering word. Um, but even looking at myself with the mirror work, starting to connect to that part of me. And I tell this story all the time that when I first started doing that, I thought there were going to be ghosts looking at me in the room, and I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. I thought, what if someone's looking through the window? What if there's ghosts? This, and I didn't realize that I was carrying that shame because I pretended I was this confident woman. And it dawned on me when this happened, I had this sudden realization that how can I surrender to the pleasure that that part of me holds if I'm embarrassed to even properly look at that part of me and touch that part of me in the mirror? It's part of me. If I can't do that without feeling, grossed out or shame or embarrassed, of course, when someone else is down there, I'm not going to feel comfortable to surrender to that pleasure. So it was a massive light bulb moment for me. And for a lot of women that I work with or I have an incredible 6-week course that I've been running for the last few years. A lot of these women, were like me, that perhaps outwardly confident, and they start this journey and they go, wow, okay, it makes sense. It makes sense why I was struggling with pleasure and why I thought it was, hard to feel pleasure, because I couldn't even connect to that part of me freely. And, so it's not about removing the shame. The shame will go when you start focusing on the connecting. And then when that shame arises, so again, it's energy. It's all the energy in the body. If you're getting the tightness in the chest, whatever, you stay with that sensation rather than going to the head and going, yes, I'm embarrassed because ghosts are looking at me or something like that. Come back to that sensation, stay in the body, stay in the body. That energy will move. And the more you stay in the body, the more you're going to feel that orgasmic energy. And when that pleasure builds.
Yeah, my team also said, like, how you receive one thing is how you receive everything, and this has come up quite a lot as well. Is that I think a lot of people in the 3D world at the moment are wanting to receive more abundance, in the form of money or energy. But how you receive one thing is how you're going to receive everything. So if you can't receive pleasure from somebody or receive energy or receive a compliment, then oftentimes you will get stuck at these invisible, like, glass ceilings, my team is saying. So you really got to look at everything, haven't you, holistically, and say, what is connected here, because everything is always connected.
Absolutely. That's why I love these discussions with other, people like yourself, that it's different, the work we do, but ultimately it's all connected. It's part of us, our higher self. But I love how you said, I love that word receive, because to receive, you have to fully surrender and be open. And that is something a lot of women struggle with. So that is huge. And also when you said, the way we, one thing, this made me think of, I'll say to women, and I've spoken about this on social media, that so if the only way that you get yourself off is with a super high powered vibrator, and that's all you've ever done, which was me, it's not fair to then go into sex and expect something different. It's possible for something different, but it's not fair to expect that of your partner if that's the only way, the one way that you've known how to connect to your body. That's going to be the way that you generally are going to connect and need during sex. So it's about opening yourself up and connecting to your body in the way that you want to then experience pleasure with someone else. Because the way you do one thing, and with men, with masturbation, when I talk to men, like I said, I don't talk as much to men because women are my main area, but I do love talking to men that, you know, they'll talk to me, oh, I want to last longer in bed. And I'll say, what's your masturbation like? And they'll say, oh, just a quick jerk off, quick release, boom, go. And I'm like, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, the way you condition yourself. So start trying to edge and build and lengthen that with yourself and watch what happens in the bedroom. It's if you're conditioning your body to be used to one certain way, then you're not going to, you know, be able to receive anything different, or it's going to be very hard.
Yeah, that's powerful because we see it in our work as well. People using their words or their intentions around something, and it's that's blocking them. And it sounds like it's the same in your work, is that if you tell yourself that you only orgasm really, really very quickly, then that's what you're going to experience. You're manifesting that, right? You're perpetuating this spelling of words that you are sending out as a manifestation, and that is the blocker. And I always say to people when they ask me like, what is my blocker, usually always my answer is you. It's you blocking you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that held me back for many years and that I speak openly about is, I don't know if you've heard the statistic that, I don't even know exactly what it is, but 75 or 80% of women need vibration to come.
Wow.
And I would hear this statistic over and over, and I know in one way it's comforting, and it was comforting to know that I'm not alone when I was back. So I had never had an orgasm without a vibrator. And even with a vibrator, it was hit and miss. And sex to me was, you know, I could somewhat enjoy it once I started, but it was waiting. It was like this anxiety, waiting for my toy to come out to see if it would work. Right. And so I would hear that statistic and read that statistic, and part of me was relieved to know I wasn't alone, but part of me then relied on that for ages, going, well, that's just how it is. Most of us can't come without vibrators. And that is what I reinforced in my head. And what I now know, and when I went on to study and working with women, that percentage of women who can't, they currently don't or have never been able to come without a vibrator, it's not because they are unable to. It's simply because we have not been shown how to connect to our body in this way. Every woman can, because like I said, it's the energy in the body. And so that's that statistic, and hearing this was what is, you know, a lot of women will go, yep, that's okay. I'm one of those women. I can't come without a vibrator. And so then it just, you're right, it's manifesting more of that. I am this woman who feels stuck in my pleasure. You know, that's just it. I need a vibrator to come. I need a vibrator to come. Rather, so in, sorry,
go on, carry on.
in my 6-week course, a whole module, a whole week on that, shifting the identity and those I am statements, and going into the subconscious blocks of, you know, rewiring that to, yeah, I am this pleasure-filled goddess. I feel my pleasure over and over freely, and shifting that identity. And I would write that in my journal, manifesting journal, way back. So when I was still the woman who would subconsciously start fights with my partner, I didn't see it then, subconsciously start fights with my partner earlier in the day to make sure sex was off the table. I was that woman. I didn't, feel my pleasure freely. Yet I started writing in my journal. I experienced the most mind-blowing, soul-expanding, deeply connected intimacy and sex. And I would write all these phrases over and over. And it was hilarious because it was so far from what I was. But I knew that's what I wanted to tap into. I had no idea. I hadn't even come across any sexuality coaches online at that point. And when I started tapping into this, I just knew that there was a part of me that wanted this. Then the sexuality coaches started popping up on my Facebook feed. And I was like, who speaks about this? What are these women talking about? Who is this? But there was a part of me that was like, okay, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna be open. And then, yeah, Bob's your uncle. It started there. But yeah, I started shifting my identity before I even knew and understood how I was going to make this happen. I just started stepping into that version of me, that identity, that part of me that I knew was there, and stopped listening and buying into these things that I would read online.
That's so powerful. I always talk about societal limiting beliefs and the collective energy because, like you say, if you buy into these rules, if you like, these thought forms, then you become one of them. But actually, what you want to do is just to become more of you, and how you do that is just by knowing yourself, right? What you want, and turning off all the noise around you. And unfortunately, in the 3D world, we're bombarded by noise, aren't we? By fear, by tactics, by people comparing themselves to other people. And actually, none of that matters. Like, none of it matters. It's all about what you want, what works for you. And
and the more you connect to you, like it's so easy for me now. I used to get triggered by other people, or if somebody didn't like me, or if somebody said something, and then I would overthink it for days, thinking, what did they mean? What did whatever. Now it's so easy for me to go, that's not for me, move away, or I'm not for them, or that's not, I know my boundaries, purely because I spent all that time connecting to me, that it's very easy. Not always, of course, there's sometimes you whatever, but I just come back to, well, that's it doesn't bother me. It doesn't phase me. That what they do has nothing to do. They're on their own journey. It's got nothing to do. And I am not prepared to hinder my journey anymore for someone else or for someone else's beliefs. They're not mine. I don't choose to take them on. Yeah. And the more connected you are to yourself, the more you know your own boundaries, the more you know your own path. And bringing back to pleasure for a minute, a lot of women will, be dissatisfied with their partner pleasing them. And I'll say to them, do you know what you like for your body? Do you know what it takes for you to feel connected enough to open up? How can you again expect that from your partner when you don't know what you want? You're just blindly going through life, taking on everybody else's things and not going, well, hang on, this is what my body needs. And then sitting down and communicating, going, I would love this. I feel this. You've got to connect more to yourself and what you desire to then know the levels and the standards that you expect from someone else.
I agree. I always say to people, your partner or the people you work with aren't mind readers. You've got to be vocal with your desires. And I think a lot of women have got we deal a lot with people who've had what we call past life trauma, but it's just trauma of like the chakra, they have issues actually communicating verbally. They've had other lives where they've been tortured or murdered or heads cut off or hung, or all these
Mm,
type of things, issues that create a mark or an imprint on the body. But it's a process, isn't it? Like anything, going through these layers, doing your healing, speaking your
mm,
truth, asking for your desires. And the other thing my team is saying about inner child, I think there's a lot of fear for people actually voicing their desires because their needs weren't met as children. So they always
mm,
digress to that inner child that didn't get her needs met as a child. So why now should I ask for something? Because the answer is going to be no, or I'm going to be shunned, or I'm going to be judged, or I'm going to be shamed. And many of us were brought up in that way. I know I was brought up in the 80s, and we were told that we should be quiet and not seen, and all these negative things, and it takes a long time to unravel and heal and know that you're
mm.
safe to speak and ask for whatever it is you want. And also, if someone says no, that's okay. Everyone's
Mm.
allowed to have that boundary and say no, right?
That's exactly. And I, when things don't work out, or, for me now, I just look at it and go, well, obviously there's something better for me. Or
Yes.
that's how I just see it now. And I'll tell myself that I know that I'm going to see down the track very soon why that didn't work. Oh no. And it always ends up showing up, and I'll go, okay. That's why that didn't work out, because this was waiting for me, you
Yeah,
know?
that's so
And
true. Like if
mm,
one door closes, there's a reason, and usually the universe is wanting to give you an upgrade, right? We as humans
mm,
really settle for like the minimum, the bare minimum, because we don't want to push ourselves outside of that comfort zone. We're programmed that way in our mind. But
mm.
actually, if you say no to just the mediocre, usually the excellent and the magical turns up.
Yes, 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 yes. And women who settle, I also talk a lot about that, settling for mediocre sex and pleasure. And you've got to make a stand for yourself and go, well, no, I'm not going to settle for this anymore.
Mm,
Whether it's I'm going to work on, connecting to myself and then communicate that with my partner, whatever. But it's no, I was born for incredible soul expanding sex. Like I want, to want sex with my partner. I want to be intimate in that way. And I'm going to stop settling for,
mm,
this mediocre, this that does nothing for me. And I'm gonna claim what I was here for, which is, magical.
mm,
And yeah, it's a lot of women will settle in relationships that don't nourish them,
mm,
or, in all areas, not just partner, intimate partner, but friendships or whatever. We settle and we just get in a rut, and we don't realize how much that's not even lighting up our soul anymore. We become complacent and not realizing what the universe does hold for us if we just open ourselves up to receiving that and actually boldly claiming what we really want.
mm. And that takes a
Mm,
lot of courage, right? Because you've got to admit to yourself that everything you're doing right now is a bit of a lie.
mm,
I don't know if you've been through that process, but I remember I did about 10 years ago, and it was like I did every single area of my life, and I was like, oh shit, nothing is working. Everything feels like shit. I've got nobody. I've got nothing. But then I was like,
yeah.
okay, let's get to work. And you start building, don't you? And then you get to a stage and you're like, oh no, actually, I need to cut this out. But that takes a tremendous amount of courage because
Mm,
and trust, right? Because you've got to trust yourself that you're going to get through it. And you got to trust the universe that the universe is going to provide and surrender to it all like that. That takes practice.
right. And the universe will always take care of us and always provide when we trust that. And
Mm,
many women have come to me and perhaps people might be listening now, being triggered by this with the pleasure and thinking, oh, perhaps am I in the wrong relationship, whatever. And women will come to me, and I will never, ever tell any, that's their decision what to do. But I will say, take that stress away from whether that's right or wrong for that relationship. Focus on connecting to you. And the more you do that, the more you will know the answer, and you will know what you need to do in that next step. But it becomes this realization for a lot of people that they have been settling in certain areas, and then it becomes this panic, like you said, because it's, I don't trust that if I don't know, and I just say, come back to focusing on you, just learning to surrender to that and connecting to that, and that voice will speak louder, that you'll be able to trust that path, trust the universe and what's in store for you.
Yeah, so true. And my team are just saying you got to remember that having a relationship is not 50-50. It's 100% on each person. It's not like I will give you 50% if you give me. You've got to give 100% to yourself, first of all, and then you've got to give 100% to a relationship. So I think a lot of women, when they get to that stage, they're probably just seeking you out for your validation to say, is this working or not? But at that point, they probably already know, right, the answers, but they're just hiding behind it and needing you to give them an answer. But in reality, we already know what we need to do, just not taking the action. One of the things I say to my clients a lot is just get the fuck on with it. And
I love
they're
that.
like,
I love
because oftentimes, right, it's just taking the action that they've forgotten to do. It's their commitment to the universe and saying, you know what, I'm going to take my little piece of action like a chess game, and then the universe will come in and match you with its piece of chess. But most of the time, people forget that they've got to make changes, or they've got to make space, or they've got to do something. You've always got to do something, even if that something is absolutely sweet, FA, right? You have, haven't you? There's always something to do. And so many people forget. And so many times I just say to my clients, just get the fuck on with it. Because just taking action, even if it's imperfect, it's messy, it's chaotic, will get you the answers. It will get you the data. And that's what I feel like I am here for, just to collect data and process it and see whether it's for me or not. And that's all I do, really, led by my heart. And I think people forget that, just to take the action.
mm, yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And it reminds me of what was that? Is it a meme or a joke or something where, and I'm not religious at all, I'm spiritual, but this joke or meme is religious, and it's something about, there's a guy who needs help. I can't even remember. And he keeps saying, God, so let's say universe, help me, help me. I need help. And then something comes, oh my God, I'm stuffing this up, but something comes along. Something comes along and he says, no, I trust the universe will help me. I trust the universe will help me. Something else comes along. No, I trust the universe. And eventually the universe says, I gave you this, and you didn't do anything with it. You didn't do
Yeah.
anything. That reminded me of that. It's like, well, yes, the universe will back you, but you got to follow that. You got to, follow those nudges and do that. Whatever
Yeah.
that is, you got to follow that.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense, does it? Some of the stuff that my own team, I call them my team, but they're just my inner guide kind of thing. But um some of the wild goose chases my team have sent me, I've been absolutely fucking ridiculous. And further on down the line, I look back and I'm like, well, you told me to do X, Y, and Z. But they're like, well, you needed to learn that lesson. And that was the
Yeah.
quickest, fastest, easiest route that you had. So I think what a lot of people do is they follow the advice of themselves or their guide or whatever, and then they learn a lesson, and then they think that they took the wrong action because they learned a lesson, but actually you learned the lesson. And what were the lessons that enabled you to grow? And so I think people create a lot of doubt for themselves because they assume that when they follow that nudge, unless it's like, oh my God, I won 100,000, or I got a new client, or I did this, unless it's something really juicy, they assume it was the wrong step. But really, it wasn't. It was part of your process.
Absolutely. There's been many, many things that now, like I was saying before, I can look at. So I would sit there just begging, praying to the universe, just give me this thing. I just want this thing. Am I not good enough? What is going on? I've done the work. It's been so long. Just give me this thing. And I get really upset that, am I doing, this is what I was doing, really upset that, am I doing something wrong? What's going on? And then I can look back now and go, whoa, I didn't get what I wanted at that point because I had to do this or learn this or whatever. And now it's more magical than I even thought, and I had to take those steps and learn those things. And so now when I'm stuck in that state, sometimes getting frustrated that something doesn't look like it's happening as quick, I'll go, there's a reason, this is for my higher purpose. The universe is that I have to learn something or whatever. It's, yeah.
And patience is such a virtue, isn't it? I think one of the virtues that I've had to really double down on is patience. I'm a new human here, so this is like my first lifetime. So patience is something that I've learned through my children, and I think a lot of people need to learn this beautiful gift of patience, of just knowing that it's going to happen in divine timing for you, and it's going to happen if you keep taking those little action steps and keep aligning yourself to what it is you want. It always works out in your highest good. Always. Not always how you want, they're saying. Not always how you
Yeah,
want, but always what
yeah,
you need.
yeah. And patience goes hand in hand with surrender to, I just surrender to when it will happen, when it's meant to happen, when it is for my highest good. It will happen, and it will, like you said, you just got to stay on that path. The little steps that are shown in front of you, take that next step, take that next step.
I love that. So where can people stalk you, Ali, if they want to get juicy with you? I don't know why they said that phrase. Sorry about that. Um,
No, I
if
love
they,
that. I love the term juicy. I use that a lot, delicious and juicy,
oh,
because
do
that's
you?
that's
Oh, that's why they said it then.
yeah, I do. I use that a lot.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm on TikTok and Instagram, Ali Gomulka. And yeah, I do have, so I've got an incredible 6-week course. Like I said, it's been going for the last few years via an app, Ignite Your Pleasure Power. So it teaches women how to do everything I've said. And each week is a new module. It's day by day, helping you reconnect every single tool that when I began my pleasure awakening journey, I was piecing it together from bits and pieces. And it was this, I thought if there was something to help people in one go, and this is what I did. And like I said, even the subconscious work is in there with the reprogramming for the pleasure and all of that. So this is an incredible course, and I'm so proud of this and the women that it's helped all over the world. But I also have, which I'm about to release and will be by the time this podcast is released, a free guided practice. It's a really basic body activation, which if you do even just that consistently, oh my God, you're going to start feeling the subtleties of this energy in your body and start awakening your body in ways that, I had no idea when I was fixated on, I just want to be able to orgasm. I want to be multi-orgasmic. I had this thing in my head. I had no idea just how juicy and how incredible. It's far beyond my wildest dreams, and it just came from surrendering, taking away this chase and surrendering and going, this will happen when it happens. And I'm just going to focus on connecting. And yeah, oh my God. So this guided practice, this freebie, is part of the exact work that I did. And even doing that alone is going to help women to start activating and awakening their body.
Oh, beautiful. We'll get that wrapped up in the link and the bio then when we put it in our podcast so people can access that, Ali, because that sounds really beautiful. So, any last messages that you want to share with our readers and our listeners?
That you are capable, you have an incredible ability to feel pleasure. You know, no one woman has, you know, it wasn't a lottery that one woman was picked to be this orgasmic woman and you weren't. We all have this same energy field. We have this, you know, we all have this ability, and go within. There's a part of you, you know, that is understanding what I'm saying, because you know that it's true that you were, you know, born to feel your pleasure freely, and trust that, follow that, tap into that.
Mm.
And yeah.
I love that. It's so true. It's what we say all the time as well. So I love when I connect with other individuals that are just sharing the same message. It's so beautiful. So thank you so much for being here, Ali. I'm going to also thank our listeners and our readers and our watchers. And I'll stop recording, then we'll have a little chat. Thanks so much.
Bye.